Melton now being back is going to help. And you saw it immediately coming off the bench. He had one where he came around the screen at the top of the key, pulled up at the top of the key for a three-pointer and drilled it. And you saw it right away. Okay, there's another professional guard that they've been missing.
Yeah.
Ball handling, shooting on the offensive end.
Yeah, and look, coming off the screen, that's huge. Like I said, I've many times, I love players with a little bit of gravity. But he also just gives you a little bit defensively where he will get deflections, he'll get hands on balls, he'll get you out on the break. And for a team like this, manufacturing points like that will be key. And it is like they need to win possession battles. They need to get easy offense in transition. They need to do all of this to try to overcome the loss of Joel Embiid down the stretch and pick out as many games as they can. And De'Anthony will help that. And he's certainly a very flawed player. We've mentioned those flaws a lot. Like for a big chunk of this season, he was shooting better from three-point range than he was at the rim. That's almost impossible to do, but he found a way to do it. Defensively, he'll get blown up by screens, yada, yada, yada. We don't need to relitigate all of that, but he does have virtues that he will bring. Some of that is standstill three-point shooting. Some of that is shooting off of screens. There's a little bit of shot diversity there. And some of that is just getting deflections and getting you out on the break and being able to defend up a position a little bit because he does have pretty long arms. All of that is welcomed on a team that doesn't have very much of that.
What did you make of his 16 minutes overall, both offensively, more offensively because you talk a lot about the defense, of course, but offensively, what did you see from him? And just as we talk about how it makes things easier for everybody else around him.
Yeah, I mean, he was, you mentioned that 1-3 he made. That was one of only 2 shots.
And he was only 2 for 6, but you saw the difference in having him out there.
Like I said, just having a player who will launch 4 threes in a 16-minute run to me is valuable because that is defended. There is gravity to that. The other team does have to pay attention to someone on the perimeter. And add in the defensive contributions I just talked about. It is great just to get some competent minutes. It was only 16. They're going to ease him back into this. He didn't really have a huge role offensively, but just to get competent minutes, I am happy that De'Anthony is back. I know that there's a lot of fans who are frustrated by him. I get it. He has limitations. Really comes out when the rim stuff is just baffling.
Yeah.
But just having a player who can contribute on both sides, it's going to be nice to have him back.
It was good to have him back out there again. Just kind of makes the decision easier for Nick Nurse, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. It makes it easier for him to call that number, calling De'Anthony Melton's number, knowing what you're going to get from that player coming off the bench. And again, or when he steps on the floor, whether starting or coming off the bench. And for me, once again, yes, having to ease him back into the game, ease him back into after missing an entire month of professional basketball. He's done stuff in the gym at the practice facility where he's gotten shots up and he's done some 3-on-3 and he's gotten some individual work in, but it's nothing like getting back out there on the floor in 16 minutes tonight for him after missing a month and him dealing with an injury. It was different for Kyle Lowry last night, missing a month, not playing because he wasn't playing for the Charlotte Hornets, and then he had to find his team, the Sixers, having the All-Star break, getting out there. They needed him too. He played 26 minutes last night. They didn't need 26 from De'Anthony Melton tonight, but with it, for me, for what I always like to say about De'Anthony Melton, as good as he is as a starter, with Joel Embiid, Nick Batum, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, when your entire unit is out there on the floor, had, as Derek talked about, quite a bit when we were discussing them as a starting 5. They had a top 5 starting 5 lineup in the NBA when he was healthy and out there on the floor. But for my money, once again, especially now that you have Buddy Hield, I still like De'Anthony Melton in this role as a 6th man coming in off the bench to provide so many different things that he can do with that second lineup, because Kelly Oubre is going to come in as a player off the bench too, as a reserve that we look to for some offensive punch, occasionally some defensive stuff from time to time because of how explosive he is. But it's the way that De'Anthony Melton, even with Kyle Lowry here as well, 2 guys that can settle things down. 2 players that I trust out there on the floor to get things under control when things may be going well for the Sixers, and sometimes you bring in some reserves and things go the other way. I feel comfortable with those 2 coming in as a backcourt, even with someone like Kelly Oubre who can be a little erratic. 2 players that, again, are adults.
Right.
When you have another adult who can be erratic out there on the floor, I like the idea of Melton coming off the bench. Whether we see that going forward, I don't know, because if Buddy Hield does struggle to get things going with the starting group, and again, no Joel Embiid, maybe Nick Nurse says, hey, Let me see what this looks like, because I haven't had an opportunity to see what Buddy Hield looks like coming off of my bench here, and give De'Anthony Melton an opportunity to get back into his spot that he only lost because he was injured. So I'd be very curious to see it. But again, for my money, I like Melton coming off the bench.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm open to see. Like I said, when the trade initially happened, my initial reaction was keep De'Anthony in there because they've been playing so well and because you need a little bit of defensive versatility. Then Buddy came out and quite frankly just competed a little better defensively than I was expecting, so that caused me to reevaluate it because I think everybody understands that Buddy is a much better fit offensively. So if that gap is closed, then you would lean towards Buddy. And so far, I think that's probably where I would lean, but I'm willing to, like I said, we have another couple weeks until we even have to ask that question because Joel's not, certainly not coming back. I think he's 2 weeks into they said he would be out 4 weeks until he was reevaluated. I think we're almost exactly 2 weeks into that, so we still have some time. Even if early on if he came back early on in the timeline, that would probably not be at least until 6 weeks. So we have some time, is I guess what I'm getting at. But it's just nice. Like I said, if you look up and down this roster, all the perimeter players are poor defenders.
Yes.
And they range from mediocre. Maybe you could argue that Buddy's just mediocre, but he's not a good defender, to just downright poor. So just having one player who can incredibly, play some one-on-one defense, who can dig down, create some chaos off ball. It's just nice to have that option in your rotation. And they've been missing that for quite a bit.
We all silly like the mayor.